Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tanisha Wood. So yesterday I was walking on the Upper East Side, which I rarely do, but I had to return this cable box at Time Warner, and so it was a whole thing. And so I'm walking, and I passed by this tennis club that I've gone to. And I'm not a big tennis person, but a couple years ago, I decided I was really going to get into tennis because I watched too many fairy tales growing up. So my ex that I moved to New York with, he's super big into tennis. And shortly after we broke up, you know when you have those like phases where you're like, man, like, was that right that we broke up? Maybe we should have maybe we should get back together. Maybe we shouldn't have broken up. Maybe I was wrong. And so in my mind, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get him back with tennis. And so I signed up for these tennis classes and started going to these tennis classes. And I'm like, so one day then I'm just going to be like, hey, do you want to meet up and maybe, I don't know, like play tennis? And then I was just going to like show him and he's going to be like, wow, she's an amazing tennis player. I can't believe I didn't see this. I don't know what was going on in my head. I mean, I was 20, old enough to know better on some stuff like that. So,
but young enough for us to not judge you for this story.
Right. So then after about 3 or 4 classes, I realized I suck. And I knew that going in. Like, I don't have good eye-hand coordination. And when you add, like, a racket and a ball or a bat or, like I'm good at sports where it's just like, okay, just run in a straight line. I got this. No problem.
Right.
So, anyway, that was the end of my tennis career after about 3 lessons. I did make friends with this amazing older Asian man who really tried to take me under his wing, but it didn't quite work out. So... Anyway, shout out to my old Asian friend. Shout out to tennis. Go Serena. And shout out to my guest, Frenchie, who's here today. Hi, Frenchie.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. So Frenchie is a Broadway performer. She is a singer. She is an actress and now model. She's walking in Fashion Week next week.
I know. I'm so excited and nervous as hell, but, I'm just going to breathe through it.
That's dope, though. I feel like in my head, like I used to watch Top Model and I'd be like, I want to do that one day. Not and actually be a model, but like I just want to walk down a runway and hear Tyra say, I saw you smizing.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that, to the smize part.
That's dope. Yeah. So welcome back to New York. So you used to live here, but you moved to Philly recently?
Yeah, I moved to Philly recently. I wanted to be a little bit closer to D.C. My dad's there, but still accessible to New York for auditions and things like that. I lived in New York years ago when I was doing Rent on Broadway. It's just not the city that I want to live in if I'm not here for work.
Yeah.
When I was in my 20s, it was exciting, Now I need like just a little bit of quiet.
Peace, quiet.
Just a little
serenity.
So I came back here 2 years ago, a workshop for a new play that I participated in ended up getting picked up by a theater. So I was doing that, and then I had a residency at the Student LGBT Center at NYU. So I was back here for like a year or two.
When you were living in New York, on your Facebook, you were always talking about like these dudes you were dating and like everything that was happening in your dating life. Is it still
not
fun?
Everything, but just enough. I started talking openly about my dating experiences because in my last relationship, when everything kind of fell apart, it's like I went into hiding a little bit, and a lot of people do that. Like their relationships are all over social media, and then the shit falls apart,
and they don't let us know.
Shit gets quiet as fuck, right?
Like I felt like I was like I'm a part of the journey, and then all of a sudden y'all break up, and I'm no longer part of the journey.
And exactly, so I felt like there's no shame in, just being honest about like what happens in these different dating experiences. And I also think that, people need to understand, women particularly, because I think you and I were talking about that on the elevator ride up here, how we live in what I think can sometimes be a toxic coupling culture. We live in a culture that tells women that their lives don't really have worth until they're coupled with somebody.
Right.
And so there's this pressure. And I think that pressure often leads to like women not spending the length of time that maybe they should spend alone. And it also, that pressure can lead to making choices that are not really healthy for you in the long run when it comes to, standing firm in your boundaries and, trusting that, the right person for you will respect those boundaries, and you ain't got to compromise them for nobody, because these niggas out here be 175 years old, sleeping on their mama couch, and be wanting a 21-year-old with like 4 degrees.
Right. And expect to get
perky titties. Like, nigga, exactly. And be
mad. Like, I don't understand why I can't get a woman like that.
Why women can't be picky too.
Right.
And what I've discovered in my Bay Chronicles, that's what I call them, is that, there are a lot of really beautiful on the inside and outside, great people out there. But I've also learned that just because someone is a good person doesn't particularly mean that they're a good person for you. And you have to be okay with enjoying the moment for what it is. Go on the fun date, have the good sex, enjoy it for what it is, but, release them lovingly when the time is right. I just had to, I dumped somebody yesterday.
What happened?
I mean, I basically told him that he and, like his half-ass effort, it was just taking up space. And like, I don't know why you would expect me to make time for that. And I just, I really enjoyed, getting to know you. But I don't think we should, let's just not.
So you like to do an official, we're ending, we're no longer...
Well, no.
So even if it's not like we're officially together, but you will say to somebody hey, like this is no longer where I'm at.
It's not always like the conversation needs to be had. Sometimes we morph into the friend zone naturally, and that's okay too. With this particular guy, like I felt like if he sent me one more WYD text, like what?
I hate that.
WYD, nigga, I'm speaking in fully declarative sentences.
That makes me want to reply, WTF.
Right. The text messages that I was receiving, it put me in a space where I was like, you know what? I'm good. Like, I've been so blessed with amazing friends and lovers that I don't really need no nigga texting me WYD every few days. Like I'm good. I got it.
And with what purpose though? You know what I'm saying?
And like that's what was shocking to me. Like he was pissed when I ended it. He was like, "You didn't even let it build, yo."
So how long were you guys talking?
We met like in February. And that's why, like when he said,
so that's February, March, April, May, June, July, August. Okay, so like 7 months.
Girl. And my thing is like, if we've not evolved beyond WYD since February, my nigga,
Felicia.
I don't think I'm the girl for you. And I'm like, maybe there's a girl out there who is cool with that. Like, I am valuable. My time is valuable. And I'm not really here for making space for people who are not going to honor that. Period.
So what did you say to him after he said, you didn't even let it build?
I was like, my nigga, you've been around. We met in February. We've hung out a few times since then. And you text me every few days. WYD, like what the fuck were we building exactly?
Right.
And he was like, whatever, yo. Like he was, I honestly was surprised that he was salty. I'm like, you couldn't possibly be mad with that level of effort. Not over here, you can't.
So when you came in today, you had just gotten off the train from Philly, and you were saying that there was a guy that you were talking to, and you guys were sort of vibing. And
he was so cute. I wish he had followed through on that.
Now, that was the thing. He didn't take it all the way because he didn't ask for your information at the end of it. Now, why didn't you ask for his?
That's not really my ministry. I have a very strong personality, and I'm self-aware enough to know that I need to be with someone who has a strong personality. And if you're sitting around, like, first of all, I don't want to set a precedent in my relationship that makes a man or a woman feel comfortable just sitting back waiting for me to do something.
Right.
That's number one. And I always feel like how you start off plays a role in like the dynamic of the situation as it evolves. And so I'm like, as fine as he was, he smelled good too.
What did he smell like? I love a man that just smells like that shower/cologne fresh.
Yeah. And it was like, he smelled like he wore Creed or something like that. That's one of my favorite companies, fragrance companies. They do men and women's fragrances. But anyway, I digress. He smelled amazing and he was fine as hell. But I think if you're not strong enough to like, approach me, then you're not going to be strong enough to survive.
Right.
this situation. Like, we can't have no kind of grown-up situation together at all.
So have you ever approached a man?
When I was younger.
Or woman? Now, how does it...
When I was younger.
Does that differ for women?
Not really, actually. Okay. I, like, whether I'm with a man or a woman, I prefer a strong, like a slightly stronger energy than mine, a masculine energy to balance, and because I have a strong personality and I'm very outspoken, like it can come across as aggressive and more masculine than I intended sometimes, but like that's not really who I am at home,
right?
And like if you let me be in charge, I'll be in charge, but I don't want to be in charge,
right? No, same. Like,
and I feel like I have to be, that way in so many other areas of my life.
Oh, preach, Frenchie, preach.
That like when I come home, like I don't.
I think that men don't know this, but like the strongest women, the most independent women are the ones that when they're in a relationship or they're with somebody, like they kind of just want somebody to take charge. Like if they're at work, like being a boss all day and doing this and doing that, when they get home, they might seem like they still want that, but they don't.
Like I was just watching a video of Oprah talking about like how her favorite thing to do is surprise Stedman by cooking black eyed peas and cornbread. And I'm like, this is one of the most powerful women in the world.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't matter, like all these college degrees and all these Broadway shows, like, I still, I'm a daddy's girl.
Right.
I have 4 brothers.
You want to feel like a woman.
So I want to exactly.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, shout out to all the women who don't want that. Like,
right.
Who want the opposite. Like, I believe that feminism is a woman's right to choose for herself.
Yeah.
And for my own, my preferred dynamic at home is, like I'd rather be soaking peaches and bourbon for peach cobbler on Thanksgiving than trying to be in charge of everybody.
Right.
Right.
I love that. Mm-hmm. So are you dating anybody right now?
I'm dating a couple of somebodies.
Okay.
It's
Who's your favorite?
I don't know if I...
You have a favorite, Frenchie.
I had a favorite, but he ruined it. He's not mature enough. I don't know why I keep attracting these young motherfuckers. Like, I'm too old.
So what's the age range of these guys?
They're like in their 20s and early 30s. And like, I'm turning 40 next year.
Okay, little rock in the cradle.
It's not like...
It's not intentional?
Hell no. And
well, you look really young.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So that's probably a part of it.
I met
so
this
younger dudes would approach
young
you.
20-something thing at Afropunk. And I was like, honey, I was like, baby, I think I got a stretch mark your age. Like, I don't even know why you over here talking to me.
You see the stretch mark?
Baby,
was born the year you were.
Right. Like, I don't even know why you over here. But he's really cute. He from the South, child. These Southern boys. I do have one favorite, not a favorite in that he could be my boyfriend because no. I don't know if I could trust him with my heart, but in the bedroom, he's my favorite. Yeah.
He's the 20-something?
No, he's he's in his 30s.
Okay. It seems like you're able to separate people into the categories in which they are best suited, right? So,
absolutely.
So I think you seem to have the ability to meet somebody and say, okay, he seems like he would be a really good guy to just hang out, chill with, go to movies, go to dinner with. He seems like he'd be fun in the bedroom. He seems like he'd be a good person for advice. It seems like you're really able to separate because I think what happens is a lot of the time, we meet one person and then we're just here are all my boxes and I want this one person to fill all my boxes.
And one day that person will come along. Mm-hmm. But it's fish still got to swim, honey. I still got to get on out here and live my life, So, yeah, I've been able to do that and I feel really blessed to have gained that perspective over time because it allows me to just enjoy the moment and enjoy my life. And that's kind of how they all got nicknames in the Bay Chronicles. There was Professor Bay, there was Jamaican Carpenter Bay.
Jamaican Carpenter.
Well, because Jamaican Carpenter Bay, he's in New York, actually.
Is he on the current roster?
No, I had to kick him off the roster, too, because his baby mama crazy.
Oh.
And I'm I did not... Listen, I did not work my ass off to put myself through school to go to jail fighting somebody's baby mama. I didn't do that. Mm-mm.
Was she contacting you?
No, but she, I think she was approaching that space, I think.
Damn.
And then Bison Engineer Bay, his baby mama, that bitch, she semi-contacted me. Her and her friends started stalking the Bay Chronicles on Facebook. And one of the friends commented.
And how did you know it was her friend?
Bison Engineer Bay told me that the baby mama had been stalking the Bay Chronicles.
Wow.
And so I made a post about it. Mm-hmm. And then one of her friends commented on that post.
Damn.
I was so it turns out Bison Engineer Bay's baby mama's been stalking the Bay Chronicles. Hey, girl, hey.
Now, to be clear about the Bay Chronicles, this is where on Frenchie's Facebook, she writes about these guys that she's seeing or whomever she's seeing and just sort of what's happening and what's good, what's bad, etc. But do the Bays themselves know about the Bay Chronicles and do they read them and how do they feel?
Well, my Facebook page is public. Mm-hmm. Bison Engineer Bay definitely knew about the Bay Chronicles because he called me one day and was like, am I Bison Engineer Bay? And I'm like, yeah.
You were so are you an engineer? Yeah. Did you go to Howard?
Did you go to Howard?
Yeah, that would be you.
Would be you. Nigga, don't act different.
Not hard to figure out.
So some of them know who they are. Some of them, our mutual friends know who they are. Bison Bay, who was around before Bison Engineer Bay, which is why.
Hold on, you started to get specific once more Howard people came in the mix.
Yeah. So Bison Bay, we go way back. We used to live in the same dorm. We have a 20-year friendship. I love him. We will always be friends. Mm-hmm. In his mind, we're going to end up married one day. And I'm like, no. The lack of consistency and effort is I will cheat. I will. And it's just I'm not.
So he comes around sort of every so often, but not in a consistent enough way.
He's not consistent in his follow through. And a lot of these niggas got baby mama problems. It's a lot. So
which kind of tells you it's a good indication about how they manage things in their life and people.
Right, exactly. And I can't, again, this goes back to me. I need to know that you're strong. And if you're being passive, like, you have to be assertive in dealing with difficult situations.
Right.
Like assertive with love, you know. And if you can't figure out a way to navigate that and like show up for whatever this situation is, then like I can't, like, hashtag self-care, like as an act of self-love, like I can't just be on standby while you figure that out.
Right.
Like, you know, and I had to tell Bison Bay like a couple of times, you know, like, I love you, but like, be prepared in your spirit. Like, one day you're gonna call me, it's gonna be another nigga here, and he gonna stick around for a minute because you keep playing. And he like, damn, you didn't have to do me like that. But anyway, I know that some of our mutual friends know who the Bays are because one of his best friends from Howard is getting married. And when he invited me to the wedding, he was like, look, don't bring no other Bays to my wedding other than this
is my day.
Right. Other than, so like, apparently at the engagement party, this friend and his fiance like had a whole like intervention, like, yo, are you following Frenchie on Facebook? Like, nigga, you slipping. Like, it's situations out here. Like, what are you doing? So anyway, Bison Bay recently reached out and was like, listen, you know, if you want to come up for the wedding, you know, I'll fly you up here, and you know, I'll pay for your hotel room, but you know, you can always stay at my house too. And I was like,
I do not need your baby mama showing up when I'm trying to have a fun weekend.
Well, he got a lot of that resolved, but yeah, it's been a long fight for him, but you know, but he's such a devoted father, and if I needed something right now, like, he's one of the people that I could call.
Right.
Like, can you cash at me $100, or you know, I gotta move. Can you drive down here and help me pack? Like, he would.
So that's like always there, bae.
Oh yeah, he's always gonna be there,
right?
Like, you know, but he's just not.
He might not call you back on Thursday like he said he would, but if you needed something, he'd show up.
And even if he did show up, it's just like it's the little things, the little efforts. Like, I just feel like he would get too comfortable.
Like, he wouldn't have to keep doing the things he did to get you in the first place.
Exactly.
Got it.
All the signs are pointing to, you know, the very real possibility that if I settled down with him, he would get too comfortable. And I can't.
You always want somebody to keep putting in that effort.
Yeah, because I'm going to do that.
Right.
And, you know, and I always say, like, show up, you know, don't show up expecting shit that you're not willing to give of yourself.
Yep.
You know, like,
don't ask for things that you aren't.
Exactly.
Just don't. Yeah.
You know, and I make a way. I travel all the time for work. I'm working on my master's degree. I'm performing. You know, I'm on the go. And when I'm dealing with someone that I really care about, I make the effort. I make the time. And that's just how I roll. And I understand that everybody's not going to be like that.
Right.
But you can't be my man.
Right. 100%.
Or my girlfriend. Period. You know, and it's just like, I don't want to, listen, I got shit to do. I ain't trying to sit and cupcake on the phone with your ass on. It's not.
Be about it or don't.
Exactly. It's not that, you know, but there's just a certain, if the thing is, we're going to talk once a week because that's what our schedule, like, whatever it is, I'm a Taurus. I just need it to be consistent.
Right.
That's just, it's my thing.
Right. Which you're entitled to.
Exactly.
The current guys that you're talking to, what are the Bay names?
There's Professor Bay.
Okay.
He's another one who I love. He's intellectually, he is more my equal than any of them. And he's very creative as well. And he's just so smart, but he's a genius in a lot of ways. And I think that has prohibited him from growing in the emotional availability areas. If that makes sense. Like,
sometimes all people's smarts go to one area.
Yeah, like, he graduated, you know, from high school at 16. He was, out of college and working as an engineer for the Army, like by the time he was 19.
Wow.
So because of his intellect and just hit the career path that he's been on professionally, he's been forced to grow up really quickly in a lot of ways,
right,
while not evolving in like knowing how to love or
teach me how to love.
You know what I mean? And like he'll get really swamped with work and then like disappear for like, and then hit me up and show up with gifts and think that like
that solves everything.
That's it. And I'm like, I appreciate the gifts. And like, some people don't show up when they say they're going to show up and they full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's really a workaholic. It's really...
Like, if he said I was working, he legit
he was
working on
like,
that.
because he FaceTimes me from his office sometimes. Like, he's a workaholic. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. But I love his ambition and I love his drive, and I'm really inspired just by how brilliant he is intellectually.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got growing up to do as far as like how to show up in a
adult relationship.
And that's not an area of growth that I can force upon him.
Mm-hmm.
He has to figure that out on his journey.
We can't change people in the time that we want them to
no,
change.
We can't.
Like, they have to, first of all, understand that there's an issue, and hopefully you let him know and he can work on it.
Like, he's another one, like, if I need something, I know I can call him.
Right.
He does have a good heart. He's a good person. Like, I respect him a lot, and I think we'll always be friends.
Mm-hmm.
So he is, even though he's not someone that I think I could be in a relationship with right now, like, he is, he's still one of my favorites because we always have fun when we go on dates. He knows how to do all the gentleman shit. And he surprises me with how he can handle the strength of my personality. Like, when I tell him about himself,
he doesn't frazzle him
at all. And I love that.
Does he take that feedback though and try to make some changes within himself?
Yeah, he has. But again,
but it's a journey.
It's a journey for him.
Right.
That I can't force him to go on any quicker than he's going to go on.
Right.
And I'm definitely not going to be not seeing other people while he's on that journey either.
Right.
So I'm still going to date.
Like, I'm not closing my doors because you want a journey.
Right.
Okay. So that's Professor Bay.
Professor Bay, Bison Bay. There's a couple of girl bays.
What's the real difference with dating men versus women? Is there one?
I don't know. There are physical differences.
Well, obviously, yeah, but from an emotional standpoint,
women are needier.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my experience, and like I can't.
Do you prefer dating men?
I'm equally attracted to both.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of biphobia in the lesbian community, and I experienced a great deal of it in my previous relationship. My last relationship was with a woman.
Mm-hmm. How long were you guys together?
We were together almost 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And we were living together. That was the first time I ever lived with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And she was more than a little bit controlling. And it just took a lot of energy out of me to do the work necessary to make her feel secure in the relationship.
Got it.
And that shit became heavy.
Draining.
Yeah. And I got accused of cheating a lot. It just got to the point in the relationship where, like, I felt like I had to walk on eggshells. Like, I'd be nervous about staying in a conversation too long with the guy, or, just crazy.
Did she have a fear that you were always going to leave her for a man? Was that her fear because you dated both?
I don't know. What I absolutely cannot do is try to make sense of what was going on in her head, because girl, that rabbit hole, I don't know. But I do know that after that relationship, I learned a lot about how I need to be better in future relationships and do better at asserting like my own boundaries.
Right.
Like that was a big shift in my life, that coming out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of the Frenchie that people see today began evolving out of that relationship and the end of it. Because I think it's easy to go through a toxic relationship experience and come out of it making it all about the other person being fucked up.
Right.
But like the real work is like looking at yourself and like seeing like where you need to do better.
Yep.
And
that's a gem. When you come out of a relationship, it was two of you guys were in it. So that means if everything went wrong, the blame isn't just on one person.
At all.
Yeah.
And I had to own how I failed to assert my self-worth in that relationship. How I failed to assert like my boundaries. You know, I had always had this aggressive personality in all these other areas of my life. And because I had never really been in something that toxic in any of my other relationships before, I had never really known where I was lacking in my ability to assert myself at home until I got in that relationship. And, you know, the compromises I made and the way that I felt apologetic for myself, you know, just for all the time. And I allowed it because I don't think that I thought I was beautiful enough to attract someone as beautiful as her if I let her go. I don't think that I really believed that I was worthy of something better. And I think when I got out of that relationship and a lot of shit happened that led to me having to get the fuck up out of there, like her putting her hands on me, I spent the night in jail, like it was crazy. And I can't even sit here and act like, oh, I'm surprised she hit me. Because before she hit me, she was blocking doorways when I would try to walk.
She had all the signs that it was going to lead up to that.
Yeah, and before she was blocking doorways, she was calling me out my name in arguments. And it was just like the shit that I tolerated because I didn't feel like I was enough. Like, I promised myself that I would never ever again be unclear about my boundaries with people. And I would never be afraid to walk away from some shit that didn't honor my worth.
Right.
And so that's why, like, the Bay Chronicles kind of evolved out of that. Because I'm not going into another relationship unless, like, we're clear on what the boundary's going to be. And that they're mutually respected in love.
Right.
And, you know, that was like a huge learning experience for me. And I think I also decided that I don't want to be in a relationship dynamic that makes me feel like I need to be apologetic for who and what I am. I am a bisexual woman. I love and I have been loved by men and women. And I don't want to be in another relationship dynamic that makes me feel like I need to always be apologizing for that.
Right.
And
sorry, I like men.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm still open to love with a woman, but I'm not dealing with the biphobia fuck shit this time. And it has been my experience that in dating men, they are just, they're a little bit more open about it.
Right.
You have to deal with fuck boys who thinks that means that.
Well, that means we're going to have a threesome, right?
I mean, anniversaries and New Year's Eve, maybe. You know what I mean? But right. I did all that shit in college.
That's not my sister.
And it's always a nigga who could barely handle you by himself. You know, talk about that shit. Like, drink some water and sit down.
Why don't you learn how to handle one
right
before two? That's how numbers work.
Okay, so yeah, I'm open to the possibility with either or.
Now, in that relationship, you said things were always building to where they got to. Like, there was always little things. But in the moments that they were happening, did you read them and see them as such? So in the moment where, you know, you're having to apologize for something, in that moment, did you recognize, like, this isn't cool? Or were you in such a space where, you know, you weren't where you're at now of, like, self-love, where you didn't even recognize it in the moment?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think that I definitely wasn't where I am now as far as self-love and self-acceptance is. But there was something inside of me that knew, like, this shit is not healthy. This is not right.
Mm-hmm.
And there were like miniature breakups leading up to like the big breakup where like I packed up all my shit and I can't no more. So I think there was always like that voice that was like, this is not healthy.
Right.
And that is something that I tell people all the time. Like that voice, that little voice inside of you. Listen to it. Because the heart is a fucking idiot.
Yep.
And even the mind can play tricks on you. But that little voice inside of you, that bitch ain't never lied to me.
Not once.
And what I refuse to do is to ever look in the mirror and feel the way, like, it took me a long time to recover from that breakup. Like, I know I cried every day for at least like 4 months.
Wow.
But like to really, I feel like maybe last year, you know, we broke up in 2014. I feel like I just started feeling normal, like 2016-ish.
Wow. Did you and her ever talk after the breakup, or do you feel resolved with her?
Yeah, like we've never talked again, and I'm okay with that. Like I don't.
So that night you guys broke up and you moved out. You haven't spoken.
Well,
since?
It was great. I mean, my shit sat packed in boxes for like a few months before I actually moved all my stuff out, and there was like the begging me to come home and asking me to go to couples therapy and like all this stuff. But
too little, too late.
I was still torn at that juncture, but like. No matter how torn I was, like I could never really bring myself to go back in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And I like after 4 months of my shit sitting in boxes, I called one of my good friends. He has his own moving company, and I happened to be out of town singing somewhere, and I sent him to go get my stuff.
Do you have a desire to have any closure with her or speak to her?
I don't.
No.
Like I don't know if closure is possible with her. I think that whatever was going on with her mentally and spiritually, like I don't even want to deal with that at all. But like I'm no longer angry about it.
Right.
I could talk about it without crying. You know, like I'm actually thankful for the experience because I think that it played a huge role in my evolution into the woman that I'm becoming now, and I really like her.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm actually...
And she was a part of that journey, you're right.
She was, yeah. You know, and I'm thankful for that. And I learned a lot in that relationship, and not all of it was rooted in pain. You know, she was really, really smart too. I like smart people.
Yeah.
You know, and she was very smart. So I think that, you know, I just release her, and I wish her sanity and health and happiness. But we don't need to really talk about it because I don't need her to take responsibility.
Right.
I don't need an apology. I don't need none of that shit. I'm good. Thank you, boo.
Because you got the healing. So do you have a desire to settle down again, or do you really just feel like if it comes at this point, it comes, and I'm going to have fun in the meantime?
Yeah, I do want to settle down again, but I'm going to have fun in the meantime.
Yeah.
So it's both, you know. I believe that kind of thing has to happen organically, and you can't really force it. You know, a lot of it is not only just meeting the right person, but like meeting the right person at the right time.
Oh, so much of it is timing.
You know,
so much
a lot of it is timing.
Yeah.
So I've met a lot of great people who like the timing was just shitty.
Yeah.
You know, I think that it has to be the right timing as well as the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it will be.
Yeah.
You know, when it's meant to happen. You know, you have to keep living your life, and you have to keep having fun. And I mean, like my mom, she's 64 years old, and she just got remarried like 2 weeks ago.
I love it.
You know what I mean? And her man is like in his 40s, and they've been.
Oh, I see where you get the little young buck thing from.
But
now.
here's the thing: They've been dating for like 11 years. It's like a real live Aunt Vi in Hollywood. Like she totally tried to curve him when he first tried to holler at her, like, you too young for me. And like he kept trying, and then they dated for 11 years and, didn't, want to get married. And then like my sister was supposed to get married and her fiance passed away. And like that was a huge moment of grief for the whole family.
Right.
And I think just supporting my sister through her grieving process, it made my mom and her man be like, you know what? Like, we ain't getting no younger, and where the fuck are we going?
Right.
Like, let's stop playing. And my mom woke up to like a diamond ring on her nightstand.
Wow.
But here's the thing. She met him because my mom was just tired of LA. My grandfather, her dad, was getting older in age. And she decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to Texas and take care of my dad. Mm-hmm. And just try to enjoy my life a little bit more. And she got a job as an administrator at Texas A&M University. And then she met this man. And 11 years later, she married him.
Wow.
And the point that I'm making is that sometimes, all the time, you have to live for you. You have to do what spirit calls you to do for you.
Right.
And the person who's supposed to be in your life, they gonna find you.
100%.
Your tribe, I always say, stand in your magic. Your tribe will find you. You know what? I hopped on a plane to Paris all by myself.
This is when you did Afropunk in Paris?
Yes. My first time going to Paris, my first time going to Afropunk. Mm-hmm. And I just decided, I'm just going to go. I'm not going to wait on nobody. And I ended up having the time of my life. I made friends with these amazing Black women from all over the world. We talk every day. I'll FaceTime with them on the ride over here.
That's so dope.
And like we exchange Black TV. I have them watching Power. They have me watching some British series called Dreaming Whilst Black. Mm-hmm. But like I never would have had that experience if I met a man who's a musician out there, and it's just like he may not be the one, but the point that I'm making is that like amazing people have come into my life just because I took chances and did what I wanted to do for me.
100%.
And I truly believe that like the right person is going to come into my life the exact same way.
But you know what a lot of us do? When you were telling the story about your mom and the guy she married, a lot of women would have been like, well, it's been 4 years or it's been 3 years and this hasn't happened yet and this isn't happening in this way. And we all have these ideas that society has like bred into us.
Yeah.
And we try to make them our life. And it's like, that's not our life. It doesn't have to be like that. And when we try to force it, that's when we lose our blessings that were meant for us because we're out here trying to get general blessings that were meant for everybody or nobody.
Right.
So I love that you just said, like, I went on a plane and I just took a chance. It wasn't like, okay, day one in Paris, I'm going to go to this cafe where I'm going to try to meet these people. And then I'm just going to go. I'm just going to follow my heart. I'm going to try to have a good time. And whatever comes from that, comes from that.
And now we're all, like the girls I met, we're all planning to go to Afropunk in Johannesburg next year. We're spending New Year's Eve in South Africa next year. And we're doing like Amsterdam, Paris for my 40th birthday.
Oh, that's dope.
And, it's just like, and then the musician guy that I met, like he's been giving me all the inside information, like, for the Black musicians who want to come and work and live in Paris. Like, so it was just, you got to take chances. And so I made friends with this couple on the plane. They were flying to Paris to go see Jay-Z and Beyonce on the Run tour. Like Paris was so lit that weekend because France won the World Cup that weekend. Afropunk was that weekend. And Jay-Z and Beyonce were on the Run.
Oh, wow.
It was a crazy, that Sunday was insane. Like, what an exciting time to be there. And for my first time, I had so much fun. I got lost on the train and ended up in this little area named after Ella Fitzgerald, who's my favorite singer of all time. So I took it as a sign.
Yep, you're meant to be there.
And I found my way. Honey, they have an apartment hotel named after Rosa Parks. Like, I saw James Baldwin's house. I saw Josephine Baker's house, Langston Hughes' house. I went on a tour of this district where like all the Black artists and musicians lived. It was like,
is this in the 18th? Like where there's that hill.
Yes.
And then like there's graffiti.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I love Paris.
I love it too.
Yeah.
And I'm actually working towards living on that side of the world at least half of the year.
What do you think the biggest thing you've learned thus far in life is?
That you have to make joy and self-acceptance priorities, arguably the top priorities in your life. And you have to like do the work to get there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and have like the uncomfortable self-talk.
Right.
Like meaning like, and even that means like checking yourself on your shit, which, you know, I love to be right, and he follows me up. But, you know, like I have to acknowledge that I ain't all the time. And, you know, I think that is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned.
When we were talking about your ex and where you were at when you guys were together and then where you are now.
Right.
I know there's somebody listening that is just at that place where they're like, I was in this toxic thing or am in this toxic thing. How do they and how did you get to the other side? Like, what was the work that you did with yourself and maybe with other people that got you to this place of self-love and joy and acceptance?
Well, for me, it started with therapy and really dealing with like the stuff we don't want to deal with, our scars and shit. Like I always tell people, most of our wounds ain't even our fault, but like healing them, that's all our responsibility. Once I realized that, the healing part like really became important to me. Going to therapy, like talking through like the old shit, dealing with like how my experience, like the whole American Idol thing, like that shit fucked me up. So I was publicly disqualified from American Idol because I took topless pictures when I was like 19 years old, 5 years prior to my being on American Idol.
So that was some bullshit.
And I think what was so difficult about it for me, you know, we weren't having the conversations then that we're having now about racial and gender double standards.
Right.
You know, so it was very hard to call it what it actually was without being painted as angry Black women.
Yep.
And just like carrying that was like really heavy at times, especially when some white girl on the show got caught on camera with a dick in her mouth and then they let her stay on the show. And then the media would bring up what happened with me again and be like, well, why was Frenchie kicked off? And so then they had to work harder to make what I did seem even worse than it actually was to justify the double standard.
Right.
And
it's just some titties.
Right. And by the way, America, you're welcome, because I mean my titties were amazing at that age. You know what I mean? But yeah, like that, you know, I mean, for a decade, if I ever read anything about myself, it would be Frenchie Davis, who was famously ousted from American Idol, It was always about that. And like, you know what I mean? Never about my talent or my education or any of that. And like, I was 23 years old. And to live through that, like that level of like public humiliation at that young of an age, like I didn't have the tools to deal with that shit. And it colored the way I looked at myself. It colored the way that I looked at this industry. It colored the way that I looked at people. And it really took me like a decade.
And at the point where it was happening, you just hadn't dealt with it.
No.
And so then when you started going to therapy, this is one of the things that came back up.
Yeah. But even though it came back up in therapy, like I always knew it was there. Mm-hmm. Like it took me 11 years to be able to even talk about my experience with Idol without feeling sick to my stomach or without like feeling angry all over again.
But you're at that place now.
Yeah, like it is what it is. And seeing us as a society, you know, have the conversations that we have about racial and you know, gender double standards, you know, it makes me, you know, feel some sense of peace that at least we're having these conversations. And in some ways, that experience liberated me. because anybody who follows me on my social media know I don't give a fuck. And I have American Idol to thank for a lot of that. Because when you experience, like, what the fuck y'all gonna say about me that you ain't already said?
Right.
Oh, well, like, y'all had already publicly shamed me. Like, so I'm just get on out here and just be myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you will deal with it. Or you won't. And that's okay, too.
It is really a shame, though, that where we're at today isn't where we were at then, where these conversations were happening.
Right.
It is. But,
right.
You know, like you said, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You learn from it, and it helps you to be a better person in the end.
And, you know, it's fat black girls out here winning now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thankful. And I'm walking on a runway for New York City Fashion Week.
I see you.
You know what I mean? So, like, you know, the universe is so abundant, and so is God's grace. Mm-hmm. And I'm really thankful.
Now that you're almost 40, is there anything you wish you would have done differently in life?
No. Because all of it, you know, played a role in me being who I am today, and
mm-hmm.
I like her.
I love that.
Yeah.
When you're at a place where you're happy, you really have to thank all the things that got you
to
like because without any of them, it couldn't have been what it is.
No, it's like baking a cake, right? Mm-hmm. You have like your ingredients, you know, you have your stick of butter and you have your cup of flour and you have your egg. And it's like none of these ingredients individually look very appealing. Like, I'm not eating a stick of butter by itself,
right,
or a cup of flour by itself,
right,
or even a raw egg. You know, but you put it all together and you bake it at the right temperature for the right length of time, and it's a delicious fucking cake. You know, fat girl analogies, right? You know, and it's like that's really how life is. It's like your best life is a culmination of all of these experiences that maybe, you know, individualized aren't so pleasant,
right?
But you put it all together with the right perspective, the right amount of, you know, growth. And it's like a beautiful fucking life.
I love it, Frenchie.
Thank you.
That's the best analogy I've heard for that.
Girl, leave it to a fat girl to turn cake into a life analogy, okay?
So what's next for you for 40?
Well,
walking on the runway on Monday.
Right. And then I've been writing more. I've always been, like, intimidated by, you know, trying to turn, like, I've been writing poetry my whole life, and I've always been into, like, the music comes naturally for me vocally, mm-hmm. but, like, I've always been super intimidated by trying to turn, like, my poetry into songs, you know, because, like, I always say, like, good songwriting is saying the most with the least amount of words, mm-hmm. and I'm superfluous as fuck, okay? So I'm just, like, I've been writing more and really working on translating my writing gift into a songwriting skill, and finishing my master's degree, finishing my MBA. I'm thinking, I'm about 95% sure that I'm going to apply for my PhD.
Nice.
In art history or African American studies. I'm still deciding, and you know, just keep singing. I'm going to be traveling a lot next year, not only for my leisure, but for work as well. I got offered a singing job in Australia. I would start in Sydney and then go from Sydney to Singapore, and then Singapore to Hong Kong, and then to Bali.
I'm looking forward to Bay Chronicles International.
Listen, I don't know. I might be too much women for these Asian men, but we're going to see what happens.
You know what? That's the one race of man I don't think I've ever even been on a date with, and I just really wish
I grew up in California.
I wish I had dated an Asian man at some point, just to have the experience, just to say I did, just to try it out.
I grew up in Southern California, so there was an Asian boy in high school, you know, but that was before I was, like, sexually active, and now, like, I have questions.
Me too. Can you?
I have questions, and
Chris
so
might not let me answer all these questions. So if you could just answer these questions for me, relay back.
But yeah, you know, we'll see what happens, because I'm going to be, like I said, I'll be in Singapore, then I'll be in Hong Kong, and then Bali, and then Japan. So maybe Bali or Japan. That's what
I love it.
You know, we'll see what happens.
And when is the Bay Chronicles podcast coming out? Because I'm requesting that.
Right. We're going to figure that out. really soon.
No, that needs to come out by 2019. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Especially because you're going to be like in all these places. Like,
right.
The people need to hear.
Agreed.
People need to hear.
Agreed.
Yeah. Don't be just writing this stuff in your journal on Facebook. Like, I'm not a reader. I'm a listener.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm a books on tape kind of girl.
Okay. Fair enough.
So can people get in touch with you? Like read the Break Chronicles? Like where can they do that?
Facebook.com/Miss Frenchie, or, follow me on the gram, Frenchie Davis. And that's MISS Frenchie, Miss Frenchie. And just be on the lookout.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Frenchie, for coming on and for sharing.
Yeah,
and I feel like somebody out there listening needed to really hear what you had to say and and your journey and how you got to a place of self-love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Yeah.
You got to run out of fucks and you got to love yourself.
Love
it's
it.
a very liberating space.
Thank you, Frenchie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for listening. You can always reach out to me. Let me know what you think of today's show at Tanisha Wood on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.